Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Indian Space Research Organization, her eyes fixed on the shimmering display of lights dancing across the New Delhi sky. The clock had just struck midnight, marking the first hour of August 15th, 2157, and humanity's understanding of its place in the universe was about to change forever. The lights weren't stars, as the public currently believed. They were ships. Massive vessels that made Earth's most advanced spacecraft look like children's toys. Their crystalline structures caught and reflected the city lights below, creating an ethereal aurora that stretched across the horizon. Dr. Chen, they're responding to our transmission. Her assistant, Raj, called from the communication station. His voice trembled with excitement and nervousness. Sarah straightened her jacket and approached the holographic display. After 20 years of studying quantum physics and developing new communication theories, she would be among the first humans to interact with an alien civilization. The response came in perfect English, transmitted directly to their systems as if their encryption didn't exist. Greetings, Earth. We are the Stellar Council's First Contact Division. Your species has finally achieved the minimum requirements for integration into the galactic community. Please prepare your designated representative for immediate consultation. Sarah exchanged glances with General Martinez, who stood rigid beside the command console. Immediate? She asked. The general shrugged. They've been watching us for a while, according to their initial message. Probably got tired of waiting. The next transmission arrived with coordinates for a meeting point in lunar orbit, along with surprisingly simple instructions for reaching their ship. Sarah found herself aboard Earth's fastest shuttle within the hour, accompanied by a small team of experts and military personnel. As they approached the alien vessel, its true scale became apparent. The crystalline structure wasn't just for show. It was a living ship, grown rather than built, with sections that shifted and moved like a breathing organism. A beam of light enveloped their shuttle, and Sarah felt a tingling sensation as they were drawn into a cavernous docking bay. The air sparkled with particles that their sensors couldn't identify, and gravity adjusted automatically to Earth normal levels. Their welcoming committee consisted of 3 distinct species. The apparent leader stood nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent scales and multiple pairs of arms that moved with precise, calculated gestures. Its companions included a being that seemed to be made entirely of shifting light patterns, and another that looked almost human except for its silvery skin and completely black eyes. "Welcome, humans," the tall one spoke, its words translated perfectly in their minds. "I am Coordinator Valera. You are the last." "The last?" Sarah asked, stepping forward as Earth's designated speaker. "The final sentient species to be discovered within our mapped galaxy," the light being clarified, its pattern shifting to create what might have been a smile. "You have achieved spaceflight rather late in the galactic cycle." Over the next few hours, they learned the truth. Humanity had stumbled onto the galactic stage just as the latest census was concluding. Most species had achieved interstellar travel millions of years ago. Their technologies had advanced to the point where physical laws seemed more like gentle suggestions. But as Sarah observed their hosts and reviewed their shared historical data, she noticed something peculiar. Their advancement had followed absolutely straight lines, each discovery building directly on the last in perfect, logical progression. There were no creative leaps, no unexpected innovations, no accidents leading to breakthroughs. When she mentioned Earth's chaotic path of discovery, how penicillin came from a contaminated Petri dish, or how the microwave was invented by a chocolate bar melting near radar equipment, her hosts seemed genuinely confused. Such inefficient methods of progress, Valera noted, making a gesture that their neural translators indicated as mild disapproval. "You will learn proper research protocols during your integration period." Sarah caught General Martinez hiding a smile. They both recognized something the aliens had missed. Sometimes the most important discoveries came from coloring outside the lines. Neither of them realized yet just how valuable that particular human trait would soon become. 3 months into Earth's integration with the Stellar Council, Sarah Chen found herself staring at data streams she never wanted to see. The massive holographic display aboard the Council's monitoring station, Starweaver, showed a spreading darkness at the galaxy's edge, like ink drops in clear water. The pattern matches historical records from the third cycle, announced senior monitors Ixtal, their crystalline form refracting light in distressed patterns. The silicon swarm has awakened. Sarah watched the Council members' reactions. Despite their alien features, she recognized fear in their movements. What exactly is the silicon swarm? The answer came from Archive Master Neth, the silvery-skinned being who had been part of Earth's first contact team. They emerge every 50,000 years from the galactic core. Silicon-based life forms that consume organic worlds, converting them into breeding grounds for their spawn. The display shifted, showing recordings from previous encounters. Sarah's breath caught as she watched crystalline entities, each the size of a small moon, systematically strip planets of life. Their process was horrifyingly efficient. Organic matter went in, and more swarm units emerged. The defense fleet is already mobilizing, Valera announced, their multiple arms moving in precise patterns as they accessed fleet controls. Standard Protocol 7 Alpha is being implemented. Sarah studied the tactical display as thousands of ships arranged themselves in mathematical perfection. The formations were beautiful, like snowflakes made of starlight, but something felt wrong about their approach. These tactics, she ventured carefully, they're the same ones used in previous encounters. Of course, Valera responded. They were developed using data from all previous conflicts and optimized for maximum efficiency. The first engagement occurred near the Orion Spur. Sarah watched in horror as the perfect formation shattered against the swarm's chaotic attacks. The crystalline entities moved in patterns that defied the Council's predictions, splitting and reforming like mercury droplets in zero gravity. Impossible, Zixtal chimed, their tone resonating with disbelief. They've never displayed such adaptive behavior. But Sarah saw something familiar in the swarm's movements. During her years studying Earth's predators for biomimetic research, she'd observed similar hunting patterns. The swarm wasn't following logical battle protocols. They were hunting like a coordinated pack of spaceborne wolves. The casualties mounted over the next week. 3 outer colonies fell, their populations barely evacuating in time. The Council's fleets maintained their precise formations, adjusting variables within acceptable parameters, but never fundamentally changing their approach. During a brief rest period, Sarah found herself in the station's observation dome with Marcus Rodriguez, a former wildlife expert who joined Earth's Space Force. He stood before the tactical display, his dark eyes tracking the swarm's movements with intense focus. "Look at this," he said without preamble, gesturing to a replay of the latest attack. "See how they circle, how they probe for weak points. This isn't a military operation, it's a hunt." Sarah watched the replay again. The swarm units moved like sharks circling their prey, testing defenses before committing to an attack. When they struck, it was always at the least defended point, despite that position being theoretically suboptimal according to Council tactical databases. The Council's perfect formations are actually making it easier for them, Marcus continued. Predictability is deadly when facing a predator. On Earth, prey species survive by being unpredictable, by breaking patterns. A chime signaled another swarm attack in progress. They watched as another perfect Council formation began to crumble under the onslaught. Sarah made a decision. "Come with me," she told Marcus. "The Council needs to hear this perspective, whether they want to or not. We might not be the most advanced species in the galaxy, but we remember something they've forgotten. Sometimes survival means breaking the rules." As they hurried to the Council chamber, emergency alerts began blaring throughout the station. The swarm had changed course unexpectedly. They were heading directly for the populous Centauri systems, and the Council's perfectly optimized defense plans were falling apart. The Council chamber hummed with nervous energy as Marcus Rodriguez stood before the assembled representatives. The massive holographic display behind him showed the latest casualty reports from the Centauri systems, numbers that grew with each passing hour. "Distinguished members of the Council," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "I've spent the last 72 hours analyzing the swarm's attack patterns, and I've discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about them." The display shifted to show side-by-side comparisons, swarm movement patterns next to Earth's predator behaviors, a wolf pack isolating prey, a shark pod herding fish, lions coordinating to separate a target from its herd. "The swarm isn't following military tactics," Marcus continued. "They're displaying hunting behaviors nearly identical to Earth's apex predators. Look at this formation from the Proxima attack." The hologram zoomed in on a particular battle sequence. 6 swarm units moved in perfect synchronization, creating a net of crystalline death that closed around a Council defense fleet. This is the exact same pattern timber wolves use to bring down large prey. They're not thinking like soldiers. They're thinking like hunters. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Sarah Chen watched from her position near the Council leaders, noting the mix of dismissal and curiosity in their reactions. Valera raised 2 of their arms in a gesture of skepticism. "You suggest we should base our military response on the behavior of Earth's primitive life forms." "Primitive doesn't mean simple," Marcus replied, bringing up new data. "Earth's predators have spent millions of years perfecting their hunting strategies, and more importantly, Earth's prey species have spent just as long learning how to survive them." The display shifted again, showing successful Council defensive formations alongside their failures. "When we maintain rigid, predictable patterns, we're making the swarm's hunting easier. They can anticipate every move because we never deviate from optimal solutions." Archive Master Neth leaned forward, their silver skin shimmering with interest. "And you propose an alternative?" Marcus nodded, bringing up simulation data he'd spent the night compiling. "On Earth, prey species survive through unpredictability. A gazelle doesn't run in a straight line. It zigzags, changes speed randomly, breaks every pattern a predator might anticipate." The simulation showed a new fleet formation, one that seemed to make no mathematical sense. Ships moved in seemingly random patterns, but underneath the chaos lay a deeper order, the same kind of organized disorder that kept schools of fish alive in shark-filled waters. "Your suggestion defies every tactical principle we've developed over millennia," Valera observed, though Sarah noticed they were watching the simulation with intense focus. "Because those principles assume both sides are thinking strategically," Sarah interjected, stepping forward to join Marcus. "But the swarm isn't thinking. It's hunting. They're operating on instincts that predate strategic thinking." Marcus brought up the final piece of data: success rates of various defensive formations against swarm attacks. The Council's perfect formations showed a steadily declining effectiveness, while simulations of his nature-inspired tactics predicted significantly higher survival rates. "We don't need to outthink them," he concluded. "We need to disrupt their hunting patterns, break their instinctive behaviors, turn their predatory nature against them." The chamber fell silent as the Council processed this radically different perspective. Sarah noticed some members already running their own analyses of Marcus's data, while others seemed unable to move past the idea of abandoning their tried-and-true methods. A priority alert cut through the tension. Another swarm force had been detected, larger than any previous group, heading toward the heavily populated Vega colonies. The Council had less than 48 hours to either try something new or watch another star system fall. Valera rose from their seat, all 6 arms moving in complex patterns of deliberation. "Your theory is untested, based on observations of non-sentient creatures from a single planet." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "But right now, those creatures have a better survival rate against predators than our advanced fleets do against the swarm." The Vega system's 3 suns cast overlapping shadows across the Council's emergency session chamber. Sarah Chen stood at the observation window, watching the evacuation ships stream past like silver tears against the purple sky. Behind her, the council argued in 12 different languages, their neural translators struggling to keep up with their agitation. The Centauri losses are unprecedented, Archive Master Neth announced, their silver skin dulled with stress. 3 million refugees already, with another 5 million in transit. The swarm's adaptation rate exceeds all historical data. Valera's multiple arms moved in increasingly erratic patterns, their usual precision crumbling under pressure. Our most advanced defensive algorithms have failed. The Arcturus defense fleet was lost with all hands exactly as the humans predicted. The swarm isolated them using hunting patterns we never considered possible. Sarah turned from the window, her decision made. Give us a fleet. The chamber fell silent. Even the evacuation alerts seemed to dim. You ask us to entrust council ships to untested theories. One of the elder members challenged, their energy form flickering with skepticism. No, Sarah replied, her voice steady. I'm asking you to try something different before we lose another system. Your current approach has a 100% failure rate. We literally cannot do worse. Marcus stepped forward, bringing up a new tactical display. We don't need your newest ships. In fact, older models would work better. They're less automated, more responsive to manual control. We need ships we can fly instinctively, not computationally. The display showed their proposed modifications, changes to make the ships more maneuverable, less predictable. The Council's perfect formation algorithms would be replaced with something that looked more like a dance than a military strategy. Impossible, Valera stated, but their tone carried a note of uncertainty. Our ships are not designed for such chaotic movements. Then we'll redesign them, Sarah countered. Humans have spent our entire history adapting tools to new purposes. Give us 3 days and a fleet you can spare. If we fail, you've lost nothing you wouldn't lose anyway. The chamber erupted in argument again, but Sarah noticed something different this time. The younger council members were speaking in their favor, while the older ones clung to tradition. She caught Marcus's eye and saw he noticed it too. The council was fracturing along lines of adaptability versus stability. A proximity alert cut through the debate. The swarm had appeared at the edge of the Vega system, earlier than predicted. Their crystalline forms reflected the light of 3 suns, creating an aurora of death that stretched across space. We don't have time for a full debate, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the chaos. The evacuation ships will be caught if the swarm reaches the inner system. You need to decide now. Valera rose to their full height, all 6 arms raised for attention. The Council's duty is to preserve life. We have failed in that duty using our traditional methods. They paused, their iridescent scales shifting with emotion. We grant the humans their request. The 7th Reserve Fleet is at your disposal. Sarah was already moving. Marcus, get our pilots ready. We'll need every human pilot who can be pulled from the evacuation efforts and instructors for any council pilots willing to try our methods. The 7th Fleet is not our most advanced, Valera warned. Many ships are approaching obsolescence. Sarah smiled for the first time in days. Perfect. Old ships have personality. Character. They'll work better for what we have planned. She turned to Marcus. How long to implement the modifications we discussed? 6 hours for the essential changes. The rest we can do en route. The chamber's holographic display updated with new swarm movements. They were accelerating toward the inner system, their formation shifting into an attack pattern that had already destroyed 3 council fleets. Sarah faced the council one last time. We'll show you how humanity survived being prey species before we became predators ourselves. Sometimes the best defense isn't perfect formation. It's perfect chaos. Marcus Rodriguez sat in the command chair of the retrofitted council vessel Star Dancer, watching his sensor displays as the swarm approached. The ship's name was his own addition. The council had simply designated it Fleet Unit 7-228, but Marcus believed ships needed names to have character. All pilots report ready. Sarah's voice came through the command channel from her position in the council's tactical center. Remember your training. Think like the prey that survived. not the predator that hunts. The Seventh Fleet hung in space before the inner Vega system, their formation deliberately ragged. The ships looked wrong by Council standards. Their perfect crystalline angles had been modified with organic curves and irregular surfaces that played havoc with targeting systems. "Swarm units entering tactical range," announced Lieutenant Park from the sensor station. "They're forming their standard hunting pattern." Marcus watched as the crystalline entities spread out in a massive net formation, exactly as he predicted. They moved like a pack of wolves preparing to isolate their target. The Council observers were silent in their observation posts, watching this unorthodox human strategy unfold. "Launch the bait units," Marcus ordered. A group of small, automated ships broke from the fleet, moving in what appeared to be a panicked retreat. The swarm reacted instantly, their formation tightening to pursue what looked like easy prey. "Now," Marcus commanded. "Scatter pattern Delta." The fleet exploded into motion. Ships spun and dove in seemingly random directions, breaking up the swarm's carefully coordinated attack pattern. Like a school of fish scattering before a shark's charge, the human-guided vessels created chaos in space. The swarm hesitated for a crucial moment, their hunting instincts confused by prey that didn't behave according to any pattern they recognized. In that moment of confusion, the fleet struck back. "Second phase," Marcus called. "Show them what we learned from the Hornets." Smaller ships darted in like angry wasps, their modified weapons striking at sensitive points in the swarm's crystalline structure. The larger vessels moved like dolphins herding fish, forcing the swarm units into positions where they interfered with each other's movements. "It's working," Sarah reported from Tactical Command. "Their coordination is breaking down. They can't maintain their hunting formation with multiple conflicting target patterns." The battle space became a dance of predator and prey, but the roles kept shifting. Sometimes the human ships fled like zebras from lions, creating confusion and separation in the swarm's ranks. Other times they attacked like mobbing crows, dozens of small ships harassing larger swarm units until they broke formation. "Watch the flanking maneuver," Marcus warned as a group of swarm units tried to circle around their position. "Remember the mongoose defense." Ships rolled and twisted in ways their council designers had never intended, presenting constantly changing profiles that made targeting nearly impossible. The swarm's crystalline weapons found mostly empty space where their predictions said ships should be. In the tactical center, the council observers watched in stunned silence as their outdated, modified vessels achieved what their most advanced fleets could not. The swarm's perfect hunting pattern had descended into confusion and disarray. "Multiple swarm units retreating," Lieutenant Park announced. "Their secondary elements are falling back to regroup." Sarah's voice carried barely contained excitement. "The evacuation ships are clear of the system. Vega is safe." A cheer went up from the human crews, but Marcus kept his focus on the tactical display. The retreating swarm units were already showing signs of adaptation, their movements suggesting they were learning from this defeat. "We've won this battle," he said to both his crew and the council observers, "but they'll learn from it. Next time they'll be ready for these tactics. We'll need to keep evolving, keep changing, just like life on Earth has always done." Valera's voice came through the command channel, carrying a new tone of respect. "Perhaps, Lieutenant Rodriguez, you should tell us more about Earth's other survival strategies. It seems we have much to learn from your primitive world." The learning hall of the newly established Earth Defense Academy hummed with activity. Sarah Chen watched from the observation platform as instructors from a dozen species worked with their students in the zero-gravity chamber below. The massive space, originally designed as a council ship maintenance bay, now served as a practice arena for the new combat techniques that had saved the Vega system. "They're adapting faster than we expected," Marcus noted, floating up beside her. His instructor's uniform now bore the patches of 3 different alien defense forces. The Arcturians especially. Their natural fluid movements make them perfect for the dolphin-inspired evasion patterns. Below them, a group of crystalline beings, distant cousins to the swarm, but loyal to the Council, practiced complex maneuvers that mimicked the defensive swirling of starling flocks. Their ships, modified with the same organic principles that had proved so successful at Vega, moved with increasing grace and unpredictability. The swarm is adapting too, Sarah reminded him, bringing up the latest tactical analysis on her datavat. Their last attack at Sirius showed they've already developed counters to our scatter patterns. That's why we're not just teaching tactics. A new voice joined them. Archive Master Neth emerged from a nearby corridor, their silver skin reflecting the practice lights. We're teaching them how to think differently. The Academy had become more than just a military training facility. Every day, more Council scientists and strategists arrived, eager to learn about Earth's chaotic but effective approach to problem solving. The facility's library now included texts on everything from ancient Roman battle strategies to modern guerrilla warfare techniques. Third Wing, demonstrate the Antelope Gambit, Marcus called down to the practice group. Their ships immediately broke into seemingly random flight paths that nevertheless maintained perfect squadron cohesion. Sarah's datapad chimed with an urgent alert. The swarm has been detected near the Pleiades cluster. They're moving in a new formation we haven't seen before. The three of them moved quickly to the tactical center, where Valera was already studying the incoming data. All 6 of their arms moved in patterns that now showed a hint of unpredictability, a small but significant change from their former rigid precision. They've developed a hybrid hunting pattern, Valera announced, manipulating the holographic display. Elements of both pack predator tactics and swarm coordination. Our previous countermeasures will be insufficient. Good, Marcus said, surprising the Council members present. That means we get to innovate too. He turned to the assembled tactical team, which now included graduates from the Academy's first class. What Earth Predator uses multiple hunting strategies simultaneously? Orcus, answered a young Arcturian officer, their fluid form rippling with excitement. They adapt their hunting techniques based on the prey species and circumstances. Sarah watched with pride as the tactical team began developing new counter-strategies, combining elements from Earth's natural world with advanced alien technology. The rigid hierarchy of the Council fleet had given way to a more organic command structure, where good ideas were valued regardless of their source. We've received requests from 17 more systems for training facilities similar to the Academy, Neth reported, reviewing updates on their own datavat. The Council has approved them all. The swarm isn't just changing how we fight, Sarah observed. It's changing how the galaxy thinks. Valera made a gesture of agreement. For millennia, we believed advancement meant moving away from nature toward pure logic. You've shown us that true evolution requires maintaining connection with our origins. On the tactical display, the Pleiades defense fleet began moving into position. Their formation looked chaotic to traditional Council doctrine, but Sarah saw the underlying patterns, the wisdom of countless Earth species that had survived millions of years of evolution, distilled into a new form of space combat. Send word to the Pleiades fleet, Marcus said, a small smile playing at his lips. Tell them to show the swarm how Earth's honey badgers deal with threats, relentless adaptation, and absolute fearlessness. Sarah Chen stood in Earth's primary research facility beneath the Himalayan mountains, watching through protective screens as researchers worked with crystalline samples recovered from destroyed swarm units. The late afternoon sun filtered through the advanced shielding, casting rainbow patterns across the laboratory floor. The swarm's adaptation rate is accelerating, Marcus reported, bringing up the latest battle data on the main display. They're learning to counter our defensive patterns faster than we can develop new ones. Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading expert in silicon-based life forms, looked up from her microscopic analysis. That's because we're still thinking too directly. We're trying to outfight them, when we should be looking at how nature deals with invasive species. The laboratory hummed with activity as researchers from both Earth and the Council worked side by side. The strict segregation of species that had once been council protocol had given way to necessary collaboration. "Show them what we found," Maya said, nodding to her research partner, a crystalline being named Zix who specialized in quantum biology. Zix activated the main holographic display, revealing microscopic images of swarm crystal structures. The swarm's neural networks are more organic than we initially believed. They operate like a biological nervous system, just with silicon instead of carbon, which reminded us of something from Earth's history. Maya continued, bringing up comparative data. In the 20th century, Australia faced an invasive species crisis with cane toads. Direct elimination efforts failed, but biological controls proved more effective. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood the implications. "You're suggesting we develop a silicon-based version of biological control." "We already have," Maya replied, gesturing to a sealed container. Inside, microscopic crystalline structures moved with purpose. We modified silicon-eating bacteria found in Earth's deep-sea vents, adapting them to target the specific frequency patterns of swarm neural networks. Marcus studied the display with intense focus. Will it affect other silicon-based life forms? Zix's crystalline form shimmered with confidence. "No. We've engineered it to recognize only the unique quantum signatures of swarm consciousness. Other silicon-based life forms, including myself, operate on completely different frequencies." Valara, who had been silently observing, moved closer to the container. "The Council has never considered using microscopic life forms as a defense strategy. It seems elegant in its simplicity. Nature often finds the most efficient solutions," Maya explained. "The bacteria don't need to destroy the swarm completely. They just need to disrupt their neural networks enough to break their hive-mind coordination." Sarah watched the microscopic defenders moving through their contained environment. "How soon can we deploy this?" "We've already successfully tested it on isolated swarm fragments," Maya replied. "The bacteria reproduce rapidly in the presence of swarm crystal structures. One small deployment near a swarm fleet would spread through their ranks within hours." The tactical display updated with new alerts. The swarm had begun another major offensive, pushing toward the densely populated systems of the galactic core. Their new hunting patterns showed evidence of strategic planning beyond mere instinct. "They're evolving," Marcus observed, "moving beyond pure predator behavior into something more sophisticated." "Then we deploy this before they evolve any further," Sarah decided. She turned to Valara. "Will the Council approve this measure?" Valara made a complex gesture that the neural translators interpreted as deep consideration. "A few cycles ago, we would have considered this solution too unpredictable, too organic. But you've shown us that embracing natural solutions often provides the best answers." Maya carefully secured the container of silicon bacteria. "We've prepared deployment pods that can be attached to standard Council ships. The bacteria will remain dormant until they detect swarm neural patterns." Sarah looked around the laboratory at the assembled teams, humans and aliens working together, combining advanced technology with natural wisdom. "Then let's show the swarm that sometimes the smallest defenders are the most effective. Nature's been perfecting defense mechanisms for billions of years. It's time we put that knowledge to use." 1 year after the deployment of the silicon bacteria, Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Innovation Center in New Delhi. The sprawling complex stretched across the city's outskirts, its architecture blending Council crystalline technology with organic Earth-inspired designs. "The last swarm fragments have been detected moving away from populated space," Marcus reported, joining her at the window. "The bacterial defense exceeded all expectations. Their neural networks are completely fragmented." Below them, in the center's main courtyard, students from 100 different species gathered for their morning discussions. The rigid species segregation that had once defined Council society had given way to something new, a vibrant mixing of perspectives and ideas. "They're not completely gone," Sarah noted, reviewing the latest deep space scans. Some survived by breaking off from the main hive mind, becoming individual entities, but they're no longer a coordinated threat. Archive Master Neth emerged from a nearby transport beam, their silver skin now decorated with patterns inspired by Earth's indigenous art. The Council's assessment committee has completed their final review of the crisis response. Sarah and Marcus turned to face them, knowing this moment would define humanity's future role in the galaxy. Valera appeared shortly after, their multiple arms now moving with a fluid grace that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "We were wrong," Valera announced without preamble. "For millennia, we equated advancement with disconnection from our origins. We thought pure logic and perfect order represented the pinnacle of evolution." Through the window, they watched as a young Arcturian student demonstrated zero-gravity movements inspired by Earth's sea life to a group of fascinated crystalline beings. In another corner, human students learned ancient energy manipulation techniques from a council elder. "The swarm taught us something vital," Neth continued. "A civilization that forgets its roots, that abandons the wisdom of nature, becomes brittle, inflexible. We survived because humans reminded us how to adapt." The center's main hall began filling with representatives from across the galaxy. Today marked the inauguration of the first Galactic Innovation Council, a new body dedicated to combining advanced technology with natural wisdom. "Earth's position in the galaxy has been reevaluated," Valera announced formally. "You will hold a permanent seat on both the traditional council and the new Innovation Council. Your world will serve as the primary training center for our combined forces." Marcus smiled, watching a group of cadets practice new battle formations in the aerial training zone. Their movements combined the precision of council technology with the unpredictable grace of Earth's flying creatures. "More importantly," Neth added, "we've begun incorporating Earth's educational methods across all council worlds. The ability to think creatively, to draw inspiration from natural systems, is now considered essential training." Sarah turned back to the window, watching the sun rise over this new center of galactic cooperation. "We never sought to replace the Council's wisdom with Earth's. The real victory was learning to combine both." Valera made a gesture of profound agreement. "The next threat we face may be entirely different, but thanks to what we've learned here, we'll face it with both the precision of advanced technology and the adaptability of natural wisdom." In the distance, a council ship rose into the morning sky, its crystalline surface modified with organic curves that made it look almost alive. It carried the latest generation of defender bacteria to the outer colonies, ensuring the galaxy remained protected. "We're not just teaching them how to fight," Marcus observed, watching a mixed group of students excitedly discuss new ideas. "We're teaching them how to evolve." Sarah smiled as the morning light caught the crystalline spires of the Innovation Center, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the courtyard. "That's humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not just the solutions we provided, but the reminder that true civilization means maintaining connection with the wisdom that got us here." The sun rose fully over the horizon, illuminating a galaxy forever changed by the unlikely combination of advanced technology and Earth's ancient wisdom. In finding their place among the stars, humans had helped the galaxy remember something it had forgotten: that the future belongs to those who can adapt, learn, and grow together.